Hello and welcome to the Baltic Penguin, or Ostsee-Pinguin as my channel is called. I'm Sebastian Meisel and I'm from the German Baltic coast, and I'm doing videos on Linux, and that's where the penguins are coming in. Now on my channel I plan to do mostly content in German, that's why I also chose a German name for it. But today I want to start a little series on the use method by Gregg Brendans that I want to do in English. Now, what's a use method? It is a systematic approach to monitor and troubleshoot computer systems, and I want to mainly look on Linux systems, obviously, by looking at the different system components like CPU, storage and memory, and then going through this utilization, possible saturation of these components, or finally possible errors. So today I want to start with the CPU utilization, and I want to show a few tools with which we can check the CPU utilization, how we can make the highlight something in the output, and how we can also check not only for the general CPU utilization but also for the CPU utilization of certain processes. So let's get started. The first tool I want to show is YMStat, that shows us, as the name says, statistics on the virtual memory. So here we have statistics on the procs, the memory, swap, I/O system and CPU, and that's obviously what we are interested in today. So we want to see on this column the user CPU utilization, then this column the system CPU utilization, finally the stolen time. That's mainly important for virtual machines when the host doesn't give enough CPU time to the virtual machines, then the stolen time value would increase. So now we have the output at one single moment, but most of the time you want to watch the system for a longer time, so you could add to YMStat a delay of 1 or I do 1 second, but you could do 2 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever you think would work for you. So I go with 1 second, and we can run it until I press Ctrl C to stop it, and we get some values. Of course, we can also add an iteration, like we want to run it 3 times every second. So then we get 3 values or 3 lines with values every second, for example. Now I want to highlight the columns I'm interested in, so I can easily see what's going on there, because there are quite a few columns that I'm not interested in. Of course I can see it now, but maybe I wanted to run this comment more regularly, and then it could help me, and also I get used to look at these columns more easily when I highlight them. So that I want to do with the org command, because we have here output in columns, and org is really good in processing these. So I need to write in single quote and curly brackets, and then I could go and choose a column like the 13th column, which would be the user CPU usage, and I change this by adding an escape sequence for the color before it. That would be \033 bracket 32 for green, for example, and M. Then I add the value of the column again, and then I have to go back to a normal output with again with an escape code, which would be \033 bracket 0M, and then I set a semicolon and I use the print command on $0 for the whole line, and I would have, for example, here my output with the user CPU usage highlighted. It's a bit distorted, so it looks as if these values would belong to this CS column, which they don't, but with the color I can see it's alright. The OR column command always rearranges the output. That is one thing that's okay for me, because now I have the color. The second thing, however, I want to do, I don't only want to highlight the user CPU usage or the system CPU usage in the stone time, as I said, and that's actually a lot of typing when you put in the escape codes all the time. So what I did, and I prepared this already, I wrote a little alias for the org command in this file that I source in my bash or C. Yes, it's the org command. So what I'm doing here with the Y option, you can add or you can define variables for org, and I defined here 3 variables with the escape codes for red, green, and normal. And I also changed the output field separator, that's an internal variable of org, OFS, to a tab. So I could also use spaces, but a tab gives me a better output. It's not perfect, as we see when you have columns with different lengths of output in them, but it's okay for the moment. So I'm going with this, and with this alias, when I go back to this comment, I can replace this awkward escape codes just by the letter G for green, and then afterwards I put the N to go back to normal, and I can now really easy not only do this for the 13th column but also for the 14th column. So I go $14N and semicolon $17 should be the last column I'm interested in. Would be $70N and the last semicolon, and I run it, and now we have user utilization, system utilization, and stone time in green, and can easily spot it. So that's fine when we want to look at what's happening right now. But maybe either we see that there's a problem now, we want to know, is this just a problem at the moment, or is it a general problem? High CPU utilization over a longer time, or we don't see any problem now, but oh, we heard that there were problems before when we weren't logged into the machine, and we want to see what was happening there. So for that we need a tool that collects data over time, and for this the best way I found is systat the systat package. So you would need to install it with sudo update, of course, and then install systat. So I won't run this command now, as I don't have sudo privileges on this account anyway, and I already have installed this command or this package. So it comes with a daemon that you need to activate before you can actually use it, which would be under at the default systat, where you need to activate this SADC daemon by setting enabled to true, as I've already done here. It would be false after you install it and you set it to true, then it's running. Before you do that, you might want to change another value in another file, which would be I don't have auto completion here. Okay, systat, I think. No, it's not. Just leaving vim, and I'm seeing it should have been right. Well, whatsoever. This is the file at the systat, and here you have the line SADC options, and you I would recommend you to set it to -SXOR, which would collect all the data that this tool can possibly collect. So you want to do it before you enable it, because once you have enabled it and it has written some data in a file, this option won't change anything until you deleted all the files that the daemon has created so far, because it will, when there's any file that is already written in, it will just go on collecting the same data as before. So you have to know this as well. So okay, I've already done all this, and now we can run this command with an option. I have actually to look up. Well, no, I remember. We don't need any option. When we just call SAR without any option, we are getting all the data set collected today on the CPU usage, and that is exactly your utilization, and that is exactly what we are looking for now. So you see, every 10 or so or 20 lines, it will add this header that gives us information what the different columns mean. We can also see when the computer last restarted last time, and we have here again the utilization and the system utilization and the steal time. So also the nice value would be of interest. Only the IO wait and the idle times are not interesting for us at the moment. Now again, this is a lot of data actually that we could of course pipe to less, and then we could go through it and see if there's anything happening that might be of interest for us. But And we could see here the average data. Probably if this would be something going on, we would see that the average is quite high, but it also may be that it's just certain times on the day where it's high, and then maybe it's not even looking so suspicious. So we have two options here. When we know, let's say someone comes to us and say between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. would be 13 military time. There was something happening. Then we could look here, but as we have collected data only to 9 o'clock, there we don't see anything, but we could say, okay, what do we have there? 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. So we could look at this data in a given time period and see if there's anything happening. Of course, this would work, but we could also just go through all of the data and we could process it just with a sort command. So let's say we want to check first for the user utilization. So we would just go sort minus key for k, and then it is a first. Well, then we have this AM, PM, that's also one column because there's a space in between. So this would be the second, third, fourth column. So we say 4. We want to sort it by human readable values. So the yes, that's 16 comes before 26 and so on. And we want to do it reverse so that the highest values come first, and then we run it through the head command and we get the highest values, the 10 highest values for today. And we could do this for the other columns we are interested in, for the 6th column for system utilization, and for the no, I have to see what was the last one. The steal time is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th column. So we could do this as well. And then we have here the average values, but here we would have some values that we are interested in, and we would see if there's anything happening that's of interest. Well, it's all 0, so it's not very interesting indeed, but it could have been. So that's the SAR comment. We also have the options when we have, for example, multiple CPU cores, like on this machine, where we could also use the P option and say we are interested in all CPUs. So then we would get values for each CPU separately, and we could also say we are interested only in a few cores, like maybe 1 and 2. We can do it as a comma separated list, but with a space before, or you can have both all and that one. So okay, then we have CPU 1 and CPU 2 and could check for the values there. So that's already fine. Before I will finish this video, I just want to show quickly how we can see if there are any processes with high CPU utilization, especially when we see there are problems. We want to see which processes are causing it. That's of course only working at the time when the problem occurs. And obviously we could use top or htop or atop or any of these programs that would show us the CPU usage. But I think the simplest way would actually be the ps command with E for all processes and then O, because then we can choose which data we are interested in, and we could maybe start with a process CPU usage, and then we could show the PID and the comment that is causing it. We could run it through sort. We don't need any key there, but we might want to reverse it and sort it human readable, and then we send it to the head comment. And not very surprisingly, a browser is running and is using a lot of CPU, as well as one process TCCD that I don't actually know what it's for, but we see the processes with the highest usage of CPU time, and that could help us to find out what the problem is. So that's actually all for today. I hope you enjoyed it and it was informative for you. And if you liked it, then please press a like button. Maybe you subscribed to my channel to see further videos. And for today I say goodbye until the next time, when I want to look with you on possibilities to check for a possible CPU saturation. Goodbye.